All right, and it's 4 o'clock. We will call the meeting to order. Roll call finds 3 people here. I guess Mayor Ryan from Sartell and Mayor Dave from St. Cloud are missing at this time. Are there any additions to the agenda?
No additions, but we do have one change or one correction item actually. In the ridership report, the numbers are correct, but we just have the wrong month listed. So it should say January instead of December. We just had a typo there, but the numbers are for January, but we just had December there.
Okay.
Other than that, everything else is fine as presented.
All right, I need approval for the agenda.
Motion approved.
Second.
Further discussion. I guess we got to do a roll call.
Okay, Rick Miller,
All right.
John Libert,
Aye.
and Kurt Hunstiger.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Consent agenda, items 5 through 8.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Further discussion. Ryan?
Rick Miller,
Aye.
John Libert,
Aye.
Kurt Hunstiger.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Open forum. Is there anyone out there for an open forum?
No, not at this time.
Not at this time. All right. And then the only agenda item is a presentation by KDV on the preliminary audit financial statements. You're up,
Andy,
sir.
the floor is yours.
Great. Well, thank you so much for having me here this afternoon. Andy Grice from Bergen KDV. I do have a PowerPoint. I will share my screen here. Hopefully that is coming through okay. I just wanted to start out by reminding everyone of our responsibility as your auditor and the responsibility of management as it relates to the financial statements. It is management's responsibility to prepare the financial statements, so that means cutting the checks, taking in the receipts, making payroll, and recording all of that information onto the Commission's general ledger. And it's our job as your auditor to come in, test, examine, look at the underlying documentation to support the numbers and disclosures in your financial statements, and ultimately give an opinion on the financial statements. We are issuing an unmodified opinion or a clean opinion, which is the best that we can give as your auditor. What that means is that this is a true and accurate presentation of the financial position of the Commission at the end of the year in all material respects. However, did want to point out that we have excluded the pension information in the financial statements until we have a chance to go through the information that was released by PERA. Usually we issue a final report in the April-May timeframe once we are able to incorporate that data, but the preliminary documents that you're looking at today has that information excluded. We also wanted to point out that we did do a federal compliance audit this year, again with the CARES Act funding that was received, so we'll review the report on that. And also wanted to share that we are going to reissue the 2020 financial statements. During the audit this year, we did have one issue in that federal program where we saw some expenditures being applied towards that program that were already being reimbursed under the state grants. And it was determined that there was sufficient expenditures back in 2020 that could be applied towards that funding. So we are going to reissue the 2020 financial statements to acknowledge that those expenditures are being applied and the related 2020 revenue is being reported in the proper period. We also issued a report on government auditing standards and a report in accordance with the uniform guidance. So the government auditing standards report has us take a look at compliance and also internal control over financial reporting. And the uniform guidance report has us take a look at the major federal program that was selected, that was the CARES Act funding here in 2021. We had no compliance issues to report in regards to the government auditing standards report and also the uniform guidance report related to the federal funding. When it comes to internal controls over financial reporting, we had 2 findings to report this year, one being a lack of segregation of accounting duties. That finding is similar to a finding that's been received in the past, just acknowledging that there is some overlap in certain accounting duties at the Commission. It's not unusual for a finance office of your size. And we also did propose some adjustments to your financial statements that were material, and so we also have to acknowledge a finding related to that. And then when it comes to the federal funding and the CARES Act funding that we reviewed this year, we did note improper internal controls over allowable activities. As I noted there on the previous slide, we noted some expenditures being applied towards that program that were already being reimbursed under the state grants. So because of that reconciliation issue, just noted an internal control finding there. Next, we issue our report on Minnesota legal compliance. This has us take a look at your contracts and bidding, deposits and investments, other miscellaneous provisions, and we had no findings related to Minnesota legal compliance to report. And then we also issue our communications letter. This letter includes our financial analysis, required communication, and also any emerging issues, just acknowledging the implementation of a new accounting standard here in the next accounting period. And to highlight the financial analysis portion of our communications letter, we did include some charts and graphs here to review here today. And the first chart shows the inventory levels here for the past 5 years. It has been increasing since 2017, and 2020 and 2021 remaining relatively stable, ending the year here in 2021 at $219,000. And this is all non-diesel inventory levels here being presented. Next, we are showing operating revenues by source, and operating revenues in 2021 did increase $247,000, or about 1.5%. The federal operating grants totaled just over $2 million. That was a decrease of about $1.7 million. The state grants and aids increased $2.6 million here in 2021. And that's primarily due to expenses being applied towards the federal grant first back in 2020. So we're seeing a greater proportion of federal funding back in 2020. And with less being available here in 2021 and more being applied towards state grants, we're seeing the related increase in the state grants. Eligible dial-a-ride expenses here also increased approximately $324,000 from the prior year, and that resulted in an increase in dial-a-ride state revenue. The passenger fares were down about $760,000 from 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the commission not collecting fares during the fiscal year. Next, this next chart here shows total revenues and total expenses. And revenues exceeded expenses because of CARES funding being available to cover expenses for 2020 and 2021. And as a result, the commission did not have to utilize local revenues, and those were able to follow the fund balance. And we'll see here in a little bit, also was able to free up some resources for debt service. But in total, revenues increased $223,000, or about 1.2%. Capital grants and contributions decreased by about $24,000. Expenses decreased $771,000, and that was due to several open positions that were not filled, and that resulted in lower salaries, wages, insurance benefits. And there was also a decrease in fuel expense, as there was a decrease in service caused by the pandemic. And also, there was a feasibility study completed back in 2020 related to plans to construct a Western transit hub on the west side of St. Cloud, and that also impacted the decrease here in expenditures in 2021. Next, we'll take a look at financial position, which includes your unrestricted cash balances, the amounts invested in capital assets, your total net position, and unassigned net position. Total net position increased $3.3 million, and that was again due to revenues exceeding expenditures, and also the commission paying off the remaining balance of outstanding debt early here in 2021. Net investment in capital assets increased $2.8 million, and that again relates to the payoff of debt here in 2021. And unrestricted cash balance increased $3 million due to the current year activity in the general fund. Next, we also are presenting the assigned accumulated net position here for 2021. The commission does set aside amounts for specific purposes in the assigned category here, with the majority being assigned for fixed assets at $2.4 million, and then also amounts being assigned for fixed route expansion at just over $1 million here in 2021. The next graph shows capital expenditures, and here in 2021 had about $2.5 million in capital expenditures that related to a fare collection system, purchase of 9 buses and 2 vehicles. Back in 2020, also had about $2.5 million in capital expenditures. Again, that related to the software, fare collection system, CNG canopy, and radios. Next, we have operating revenues with the proportion in total here, with the majority of revenues coming from state sources. Here in 2021, we were at 67% compared to 53% back in 2020. And again, that relates to the federal grants making up a larger proportion of reimbursements back in 2020, representing 21.5%, and then also seeing that related decrease down to 11.7% here in 2021. You're also seeing the passenger fares. That represented about 4.5% of operating revenues back in 2020, and less than 1% or even 0% here in 2021, again, due to the pandemic. Next, we are presenting the 2021 operating expenses by department and 2020 for comparison. We are seeing a decrease in the fixed route and dial-a-ride transit operations, going from 61.2% down to 58.7%. And again, that relates to open positions here in 2021, and you're seeing the related offset in the remaining categories. And that highlights the financial analysis component of our communications letter. And next, I'd just like to open it up for any questions.
Commissioners, got any questions?
No.
All right. I don't think there's anything this is just for information right now, right?
Correct. Yep, it will be issuing the final report again in the April, probably the April timeframe with the pension numbers, and that will close things out. And we'll also have that 2020 financial statement reissued at the same time, and that should wrap things up.
All right, Ryan, you did a good job of hiding our slush money.
Maybe we won't be issuing in April.
Yeah. Commissioners, no questions for Andy?
No.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Ryan, do you have anything? I think that's all we had on the agenda. You're muted. You're muted. There you go. You're muted. Can't hear you.
There we go. Yeah,
There you
sorry
go.
about that. Yeah, I had the agenda in front of me and I was trying to hit the unmute button. I had to move the agenda out the way. No, I was saying that's all we had today. This was just a financial update, just presented by Kate Bergen at KDV. So I just wanted that to be at the topic of discussion for today, just discussing Metro versus finances. We have Paula on the line too as well. If Paula wanted to chime in and say anything, I'll turn it over to Paula.
Thanks, Ryan. Good afternoon, commissioners. I just kind of wanted to give a little bit more detail as far as why we're restating the 2020 financials, just to kind of give you a little bit more detail on that. It initially it's due to the fact of the CARES Act funding. And when we received the CARES Act funding back in 2020, they were very vague about, they kind of threw the money out there and didn't let us know, necessarily what it could or couldn't be spent on. And so we were very conservative in utilizing those funds just because we just weren't sure at that time. And as time progresses now, the guidelines have become much more clear and things kind of became more structured. And so what we did then was go back and say, hey, there's a lot of expenditures that we could utilize in 2020 to utilize those funds, even though it's 2021. And so what we did was kind of go back, did a look back to see what expenditures for that grant versus the state grant. So both of those two grants started in January of 2020, and both of those grants then end, well, the state grant ends December 31st of 2021. So essentially what we did was use the same expenditures, but take a look back and say, hey, we can use all of these expenditures in 2020 And because we chose to do that, then we end up having to do the restatement, but it was, I mean, it's about a $2 million variance there. So that was worth it to us to say, yeah, you know what, we're going to use those expenses in 2020 and take a look back at those. So that's kind of a little more detail on what happened there, and just to kind of give a little bit more background as to what the thought process was with that.
Okay, yeah, I think some of those, when they first came out, nobody knew what they could use anything for. So I know cities were in that situation
Yeah, so
too.
we were being very conservative on that. So it was nice to see them kind of firm up those restrictions and kind of firm up, you know, what the guidelines are, but then forced us to go back and take a look at things. So yeah.
Yep. All right, commissioners, got anything?
No.
Sure, just, this is Kurt. Paul, I think that was a good idea, because like Rick said too, Mayor Rick, we weren't given a lot of direction with our monies either, so we didn't have to go back. We finally got some guidance, but it took a while to get that, so I understand what you did.
Yeah. Thank you, commissioners.
All right, Ryan, anything else? You're muted again.
Sorry about that. Yeah,
Actually, you sound better when it's muted.
yeah, the meetings go faster, right? When I don't talk. Now, just want to say thank you guys as well. Thank the finance team, Paula and the finance department for managing our funds. You know, each year revenue always exceeds expenses, and it's been like that time after time. I know we had the influx of money this year, but also again, as Paula stated, Metrobus is always operating in a conservative realm versus just spending like we won the lotto. So I'm just happy that we have a good finance department and we have a good, well-oiled machine. So the levy money is being saved, is being tucked away, and hopefully we could just keep that maybe for the next couple of years, because as Andy stated and Paula stated, you know, Metrobus is in a good position right now. So we'll try to do the best we can, continue to be conservative, continue to be mindful of the dollars that we do receive, and just look to get the butts back into the seat so we could put the full service back on the street, so we could give the customers what they expect of Metrobus. We're working on the driver shortages right now. We're continuing to do a different initiative. Our HR department, in conjunction with our operations team and our marketing team, we're just trying to do different initiatives, try to do different open houses, trying to, you know, we have the sign-on bonus, we have the hiring bonus that we just implemented here a few months back. So we're just trying to do all kinds of different new and innovative things to try to bring people into our operation. So stay tuned for more, and hopefully 6 months from now we could look to hopefully put service back on the street, and hopefully this COVID thing will be a thing of the past. You know, we said that last year, and here we are a year later. So hopefully I won't have to say the same thing again 6 months from now, but it's just the best is yet to come. So stay tuned for more. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Commissioners, got anything at all? Otherwise, we can adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
Second.
Further discussion. Ryan, roll call.
Okay, if I take my time, we can actually stretch this out to 20 minutes. Okay, right now we have 19 minutes. So just take your time and say approve when I say your name, and we could just stretch it to 420. Rick Miller,
Aye.
John Libbert,
Aye.
and Kurt Hunsaker.
Aye.
All right, thank you guys. We are adjourned.